the stink eye.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Fitness and Friends. I'm your humble host, Dr. Bob Ruano. Today on the show, we have a very close, dear friend of mine, and she's been in the exercise world for almost 30 years, which is crazy to think, both as a participant and as a coach and a trainer. The last 5 years, she has taken a really deep dive into the world of yoga, and from the outside looking in, I see a lot of transformational changes with her. So if you know her, you know that she is a high energy, high charging, absolutely hilarious individual. And this person, of course, is Kelly Watson. So without further ado, Kelly Watson.
Thank you.
Kel, welcome to the Innovative Back Solutions Studios.
I'm excited. I'm excited.
Well, yeah, if it gets a little drafty here, the masons forgot a few bricks here in the wall.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay,
so
good.
We're gonna work on that. We can get a space heater. Thanks for that. All right, so yeah, 30 years.
Well,
of doing
obviously,
this.
I was a newborn baby when I started.
Well, I was gonna say I didn't qualify.
I started in a playpen, and I was clearly about that time.
I heard your first group training session as a coach. You created was a baby burpees for the VPK classmates
in the pre-K
yes,
where I
so there
started.
you go.
Yes, but no, I did. I've always had an interest in fitness, and I started jogging with my dad when I was like 13 around the neighborhood. He was always a runner, and 3 to 6 miles a week or a day each time. And I started running with him, and I actually won I forgot about this when we were talking. I won on the radio when I was like, I want to say 9th grade, a free membership to, what was it called? A gym. I probably wouldn't even be able to remember the name. It was so long ago. It would be a really date me for Gainesville people. It was a very old gym, and I won a membership, and my high school boyfriend was working out there, so I started working out there, and gosh, what was it called? It was over here off Tower Road.
So you've had like a lot of influence. I mean, because back then, working out, that wasn't like an in vogue thing to do like it is today.
No, I was like 14, and I literally, there were not many females, especially 14-year-old girls in the gym, and and I was like trying to lift dumbbells. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I was always interested in it. Yeah. So I started really young, and then I worked at Gainesville Health and Fitness Center. When I was in college, I got a job there working at the front desk and the nursery, because I love babies.
There you go.
And that was kind of my in. And then I got really interested in the training aspect and started working at another gym. A friend of mine got a job as a manager at a new gym that was opening, so we kind of transferred over to this gym, Orion Fitness, and that's where I got my first personal training certification when I was 18.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was just like a weekend. I mean, it was not an ASM like weeks long, but it was something. I mean, it was like a 3-day kind of like 10 hours a day, like really submersive little
so you always had a curiosity, not just in doing the work, but the creation of
right. Well, first of all, it came from, I always wanted to do it correctly and well. Yeah. I wasn't just kind of going through the motions or like there to socialize, or I really wanted to get results and have something happen and my time be efficient. So I think that's what kind of got me into the coaching or teaching or training aspect, was just kind of my own interest in like making sure I'm doing this properly and correct, because I didn't really know. I was just kind of fresh in it, like this young girl, like, hey, cool, guys, is this what we're doing here?
Well, again, if we're talking 30 years ago, we didn't have the research and the tools that we have now to get into a program, to learn proper technique. And
especially, I mean, I'm like literally getting dropped off by my parents there at like 13 or 14 and just pick you up in an hour, okay? And I'm just in this gym, and it wasn't like classes. It was just
13 or 14. I'm getting dropped off at the arcade. I'm playing, Pac-Man.
In all fairness, I was in 9th grade, so I was a little bit young for 9th grade. So that's some just context. I was in high school. I was in 9th grade. I was just young for my grade, but I had that interest, and I don't know if we're going to go into that, but I did have like a disordered eating history.
Tell me a little bit about that.
And a lot of.
And again, I didn't know you back then, but you're always very, very fit. Very thin.
Thank you.
But again, that the eating disorder thing we've talked about is not a weight thing.
No,
as
it's
much
really
as a
not,
control
and
thing.
that's the kind of misconception I think is that an disordered eating habits or anything along that spectrum, because it's so vast, is somehow always about wanting to be thin or the way you look, and it's really not. It's something that's often triggered and brought on by a need to control something, and kind of, we won't go into all of my own personal Pandora's box of where that comes from, but that's a whole another episode for another day. But it is, I think the exercise began as something that kind of went hand in hand in a disordered way and kind of aiding and embedding the eating disorder. But then over time, it became something that actually helped me to, I believe, break away from it some, because my focus became something different, and the exercise gave me a feeling that was kind of an outlet, a release, and I think it kind of just transferred and helped me to shift out of disordered eating into healthier eating, because as I became more involved in exercise, you can't really exercise when you don't eat.
Yeah,
it's
400
real
calories
hard.
in your belt. Yeah.
You can't really feel good or exercise or build any muscle when you're
So it
not
became
eating.
more about performance as opposed to aesthetics.
Right, and that's what, as we've talked about, really, as I kind of got into things and found my way to CrossFit, which is where you and I met at Go Primal, that's the first time while I was working out and training there that exercise became about what my body could do. And I was, instead of just like in the mirror at a gym, like a girl, like how am I looking, like what's happening, and trying for it to be about aesthetics or being thin, which in retrospect of having eating history, I naturally have a thin body type, so I didn't really need to not be eating. It wasn't some sort of like weight loss thing. Again, it's like a mental disorder. So that was sort of a waste of time overall if it were that aspect. But the motivation kind of stemmed from that. And as I started getting really involved in CrossFit, not only at that time in my life was it really vital to my mental well-being and a real outlet for what I was going through at the time, but it really opened my eyes to kind of like, wow, I can be strong, like I can get strong. And instead of just, am I trying to like meet a number on the scale, or am I trying to fit into a number in a clothing? It was like, what number am I deadlifting? What number am I like overhead squatting? And like that became really cool, and like I'm strong and I'm seeing improvement, and like I used to only be able to like do this much of a dumbbell clean, and now I can do this much, and it was exciting. That's
it's interesting that even with all of the experience that you had, probably 20 years prior to that of training, you found a new outlet and found new motivation and new drive.
It was really interesting, because it was such a paradigm shift excuse me, for the way I saw and just my whole perspective on exercise and what it was, and kind of that almost not obligatory, but just something you kind of a chore, and I have to go and do the Stairmaster for 30 minutes or speed walk or whatever it was I was doing when I was in college. That was a lot of heavy cardio. College girls love cardio back in the day. A lot of cardio happening, which
a lot of cardio happening.
It wasn't really helpful for building muscle. P.S. When you're already a super thin, not eating enough female, and you're doing nothing but cardio, don't look for any muscle tone. It's not going to be there. So that was frustrating. Honestly, I got frustrated a lot. I remember feeling in my 20s frustrated that like, gosh, I'm working out so much. I'm working so hard. Why does my body not show that? And it took me a while to make that connection to like, oh, food, right? That food might be helpful.
That's crazy, because we didn't mention, you have a degree from the University of Florida in what?
I do. Nutrition, yes.
In nutrition. Wow.
I do. So those who can't do teach. But I was interested in it for that same reason. And I started to, use it and see it more as, especially as I got into CrossFit and it became about strength and performance for the first time, I thought more of it in terms of just a basic like cut and paste formula. Like I need to eat this to make this happen. I'm going to a workout. I can't do a CrossFit workout on no food. And so, recovery shakes and like treating it like fuel became a kind of different thing. And it really did change my whole outlook and perception of exercise and the purpose it served, and especially in my life, the role it served before, when it went from being kind of a chore or something I had to do for some reason based on my own decision, but to something I was like excited about and I felt really empowered by. When I was lifting and doing all that stuff at Primal those years, I felt very just strong. I'd never had so much strength and muscle, and it was just exciting.
Well, I think just like culturally speaking, we see this jump of a lot more younger women getting into weight training. Probably the initial hesitation is, I don't want to get bulky, and we have guys, boys and men that lift weights their entire life to get bulky, and it's a struggle. So,
Right.
you know, women don't have necessarily the capacity, the testosterone levels to do that. So not be afraid of that.
I just saw your wife's face in my mind when you said that.
Oh, is that right?
No,
Yeah.
just because, you know, that's just a subject. It is. It's frustrating when, as a trainer, as his wife is my best friend. One of
Yes,
you know,
yes.
So are you my best
Hi, baby.
friend-in-law? Are you like what?
Best friend-in-law.
You're my
I like
best friend
that.
plus one, or my best friend-in-law, something like that.
Just call me Bill.
Okay, great. But you know, it's that's such a fear for women to get involved. I think it's changing a little bit, hopefully, because
For sure.
it's become so much more in the spotlight and such a
Absolutely.
different thing. But like, there is that kind of like, well, I don't want to bulk up or get
Right.
like, I dare you to, like, go ahead. Like,
Yeah.
it's so much harder to do that than what you actually want to accomplish.
Yeah.
Like what the average, and I won't even say women because that's gender stereotypical, but
Correct.
the average human, what the kind of goal I feel like in fitness overall, of course, being stereotypical, everybody has different goals in their body, but
Yeah.
and realistic expectations, hopefully, for their bodies. But no, they don't have expectations.
No,
But-
you know, even you know, hearing your story, how you got involved in fitness, mine was all about aesthetics. You know, I wrestled, gymnastics, played lacrosse and baseball, but I didn't work out to increase my performance. I worked out to build muscle, right? Because why?
Yeah.
Because I wanted to be, you know, a little more attractive to
Bring
the
the girls
opposite
to
sex.
the yard.
Exactly. But if you peel that layer back even deeper,
Yeah.
that's an insecurity thing.
It is.
Right? And so that's how I thought I would kind of overcome that insecurity.
But even not as much insecurity sometimes, 'cause I think it is, but I think even more so, it's building security. It's like
Yes.
everyone feels better. I won't say everyone because I won't speak for everyone, but I would hedge to say that most people feel better when they're feeling fit or they're moving their body or they're not sedentary. Just human nature. You feel better when you're active and you're feeling good about the way you present yourself. You want to, you know, your confidence is boosted when you are proud of or you feel secure in what you're presenting to the world, the way you look and the way you feel in your body.
This past year with the gym closures, you know, not only did we see, I think we're all aware, if you exercise and you eat well, you're going to change your aesthetics. But I think what we saw with the gym closing last year was that not only did we put on weight, but we started to undergo more anxiety, more stress, more depression.
Right.
I don't think we give enough credit to the emotional effects that regular exercise has.
Absolutely. And that was really, for me, the most, because I'll say, you know, I did have a period in the beginning of the pandemic where I was very like, oh, I have all this free time, I'm crushing it, I'm doing all these workouts, and I really did have a little run there where I was like, oh, I'm just crushing it. Like I've got all this time, I'm doing nothing but working out. But there's that, but then in the downtime, I was not doing anything, which I'm normally running around. I'm, you know, hardly sit down until nighttime.
Right.
I would do a workout, but then like in between those times, I was just a lot of couch riding, a lot of chilling. But it's the toll it took on, as I kind of just got, it was like a combination. I kind of just got tired and frustrated, and then I was losing motivation. I was doing a lot of Zoom classes, and it's not the same as that community, that connection.
Right.
You get frustrated. You're just kind of like, and I just think a lot of people just got to where they were just kind of like, F it, you know, just it's, who cares? Like we're all in it together. A lot of people kind of gave each other permission to just, whatever you need to do to survive this period of time, do it. And then as we kind of came out of it, everybody was like, oh, we're coming out of our bathrobes back into the world. Better check out what's happening under here. I was like, oh, clothing, what's that?
Right.
But I think, and that brings me to yoga, which is, you know, my passion now. I think, especially with yoga, there's such there is with most exercise, because just physiologically it creates results and reactions in your body that change your, you know, all those, your hormone levels and things. It does actually physiological improve your mood. But the mental aspect of yoga, a yoga practice, if you choose to develop that aspect of it, some people don't, some people do, but the meditative factor, the breath connection, the kind of off the mat benefits of yoga that, I've really, I think, benefited from tremendously, if more so even than the physical part, are what was really missing and what's like hard to replicate. And that was kind of causing to like, gosh, I need that reinforcement, that kind of, and it was also at the same time, it was a blessing because I had that kind of meditation practice, that ability to calm and breathe and kind of refocus that I didn't have prior to finding yoga.
Well, I'll tell you, like you said, it's been about 5 years or so that you've really
5-6 now.
So, you know, we all see it. Like I said, we've known you a long
that.
time, and you know, you walk into a room and there's just like this buzz of energy. but now it's like, it's very focused. It's very like, very zen.
Thank
it's
you. I
still
appreciate
it's still
that.
high energy, but it's very high
Yeah.
energy, I mean, high zen energy.
And you know what? I honestly really appreciate you saying that. And this is an odd way we're going with this, but
Yeah.
it's again, because we're having a very organic conversation. I know we could go so many directions, Bob. We know so many things about each other. We could take this so many directions. But that being said, I really appreciate that, because I do feel like, not that I'm saying there was anything wrong with how I was prior to this or anything like that, but I am a very emotional person.
Yeah.
I'm very sensitive. I have, my emotions are all very intense, whether they're
Yeah.
positive or negative. I'm just an emotionally wound person, and
No apologies needed.
Yeah, and like I have felt a need to apologize for that in my lifetime, and I think what yoga has really done for me is you really just. Actually, I had a little light bulb moment here, Bob.
I love it.
It has helped me to channel that, where I haven't lost my energy. I am still a high energy person. I am still, what used to kind of make me kind of, oh, where's he going with this? He's saying I'm high energy, and that kind of felt like an insult or a criticism
No,
to me.
not at all.
And now the fact is, like, I am still high energy, but I'm able to channel that, and it is kind of more of a calming in breath and like zen feeling, because I'm better and I'm more mindful of my rate of speech, of my breath, of things that help me to slow down when I tend to be a sped up person and high energy and emotional. It's kind of like Yoga Pod, where I teach, is, one of our
It's great. It's a great studio.
It is. It's beautiful. It's a wonderful place all around. But, one of our intentions is breathe first. And that's kind of really helped me, because just in reacting in life and anything you're doing, just that kind of knee-jerk reaction versus kind of taking a breath, centering, thinking. It's really just about mindfulness and kind of being more aware of all these things that help you to kind of focus your energy into a more, instead of being scattered everywhere, you're kind of like,
well, I'll tell you,
little
and
more
it's,
centered.
and again, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, we've had this conversation, and people be falling asleep. They're like, okay, when they bringing out the thumb thimbles and the incense. But really, you talk about these breathing techniques and mental focus and clarity. I mean, the special forces, that is like their number one drill is to be able
breath
to
control.
Breath control, exactly. The coaching that I follow, Ben Bergeron for CrossFit coaching, same thing. He's all about breath control and clearing the mind. And
well, you actually cannot. It's almost physiologically impossible to have your heart rate, basically to feel that physical out of control feeling if you're controlling your breath. If your breath stays under control and your rate of breath stays smooth and controlled, your heart rate stays more controlled, because they're very closely related. So it's very hard to have your entire body feel really elevated and out of control, but your breath be in control. So your ability to control your breath really does affect the way your body is able to calm down or remain calm.
yeah, I'll tell you, it sounds easy, right? Breathing. How hard is that? I've been doing it my whole life.
Right?
It's very hard.
It is.
And
It
I guess
is.
that's why they call it a practice. Same thing with yoga. I've taken your classes. That flow class is awesome.
Thank you.
I've taken the heated, or what do they call
Hot-
it?
the hot
hot
class,
yoga.
yes.
Phenomenal class. And I thought it was going to be more resting, relaxation. That's a hard ass workout.
It is, and that's what I think a lot of
Very
people.
physically
I did that
challenging.
myself, especially you understand the mentality when you're coming from CrossFit, and CrossFit, especially 5-6 years
I wanna
ago,
do it,
was
yeah.
very like, I'm in this. I do
Yeah,
CrossFit.
I wanna
I've
be
got-
the best.
Yeah, and so I kind of had this. Oh, yoga, that's cute. You do stretching. That's so nice. I love that. Oh, that's adorable. I'll do some stretching after my workout. But it's like I
Right.
really had this kind of, oh, yoga's just. I think like what Tai Chi is, people sometimes think is yoga or like meditation, but and that can be that
Right.
yoga can be a million things, but there is yoga that is very power yoga, challenging, invigorating, very different kinds. It is a workout, and then not only are you physically challenged, even though you're not involving resistance or weights most of the time in most practices, just holding static poses in the correct alignment for time or just sinking in is challenging, and especially when it's not something you're used to. When I started yoga, I went in there in the best shape I'd ever been in my life, the height of my CrossFit situation. I really was like feeling myself as far as my ability to physically perform. And I'm in there like, okay, I've got this.
Yeah.
There were women in their 70s that were holding poses, and I was like shaking and like,
Yeah.
what? And I was literally like confused, like what I feel like, and I'm watching these women just hang out like it's nothing, and I'm literally shaking visibly like I can't hold this. And it was very humbling because I was like, oh, okay, well.
They were warming up the AEDs.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it was
paddles.
genuinely, but it's just muscles that I haven't used.
Yeah.
It's different musculature, it's different engagement, it's just, so I think it's very underrated that yoga can really actually be a good workout. One of my private clients right now, he is working hard on his breath with the movement, because it's one thing to just do the shapes and the poses, that's challenging enough, and especially when you start and you're kind of breathy because it's hard and challenging.
Yep.
Once you start trying to, now you're aware enough that you have the pose and all the minute alignment keys and cues and adjustments. Now you're having to bring your awareness to your breath and syncing that up so that every pose is stretching the length of your breath, and you're being cued to inhale at certain times and exhale at certain times. And it's a lot together. It's a lot going on. And so it seems really easy, and it looks, when it's, it looks beautiful and relaxing, but And once you get it all, it's very possible. Then it is where that flow state, you drop in, you lose time. You're kind of like, wow, the hour already went by. And that's kind of the goal, that your mind is just
I got to tell you,
busy.
I've never achieved that. I'm always looking at the clock. Wait a second.
I know.
Are we almost done yet?
Yeah, and that's the thing. But you don't do a lot of flow, in all fairness. You do mostly hot, and that is a little bit different. You don't really drop into the flow state as much in a hot practice because it's a different thing.
Yeah.
But in a flow class or vinyasa class, you are having an option more to, or opportunity to drop more into that flow state, where lots of things can create that. A workout can create that. Reading a book, various things, where your mind just gets so busy that you literally like go, oh my God, it's been 2 hours and it feels like 5 minutes. And that
it's just a very meditative state.
Right, that's the state though, but that ability to drop into that and learn to find that state on your mat, you can take it off of your mat, so then when you're in duress or you're in a stressful situation or having anxiety or whatever may be going on in the real world, which is a constant, lots of stuff, you can tap into that breath, you can tap into that space where you can get to the flow state where you can basically remain calm, a better ability to remain calm.
Yeah. Now, like you said at the top of the show, like you've definitely taken a deep dive into this, and like I'm learning so much now. I want to kind of get back into the program again. I think I need that.
Yeah, it's really great. But that is really hard. Like, it's that connection, that breath to movement, that ability to like turn your mind off and really truly just focus on connecting your breath to your movements is the key, the magical key to yoga, as far as unlocking that other aspect that is the kind of non-physical side, that is that thing that you can take with you off of your mat, your ability to, and that's the thing, I think the change I think that family and friends have noticed is that ability to kind of center myself, deepen my breath, stay calm in different situations, just be more mindful around those physiological things, which result in like a calmer presence.
But all the while maintaining your.
I'm still real spicy, Bob.
Yeah. I came across a quote that reminded me.
I can still be real spicy. We know it. Yeah.
We got that quote. Look at this from Vera Wang of all people, and I saw these yoga pants, which we're gonna have to
do. I was going to do an obvious leg cross here with like my
exactly
citrus
when you have
for peaches. This is my peaches.
Oh, that is. Look at those.
Right. This is in honor of your wife, my bestie, with the peaches leggings. I'll have to give you the link.
Let's throw that quote up again. So Vera Wang. When you have passion for something, then you tend not only to be better at it, but you work harder at it too.
It's so true. And that's also like a very Oprah-ish like vibe.
It is.
It's very Oprah, which I'm also really into. But it's so true.
But isn't that though? So, whether it's swimming or running or weightlifting or yoga, if you can find whatever it is activity that you're drawn to, you'll have success with. It's just about movement, and you'll experience maybe some of the aesthetic changes, but also the mental changes too. And I really think that state, that emotional change, really trumps the physical.
Yeah, absolutely. That's my number one takeaway with any client of mine or any student, anybody I interact with in the fitness or yoga world is I just had this conversation recently on Facebook with some friends, and a friend of mine was looking for an exercise thing, and she was asking about a rower or a water rower and this, and people were chiming in, and you should get a Peloton instead. And I have a Peloton, I love it. So I said, yeah, the Peloton's great. And then she and I had a private text conversation, and she was saying, well, I was really just kind of feeling the rower, and she told me why. And at the end of the day, what I told her was the most important thing is finding what works for you. If I love the Peloton, but you don't, you're not going to do it. So every individual has to find what is realistically maintainable for them long term, and what is something that they enjoy and brings them joy. And it's not that obligatory, it's a chore, I
Right.
don't want to do it, but something that you're passionate about and you love, because then you'll be more willing to stick with it and engage with it longer, like anything.
Exactly. No, I love it. So if someone was interested in beginning a yoga journey, how could they get in touch with you?
Well, I'm on Facebook. You can message me. You can always come into YogaPod. YogaPod is a gift to our yoga community.
It's a beautiful studio.
It is. It really is. There's also
great
Searchlight.
instructors.
I got to shout out Searchlight. That's where I started my yoga practice 5-6 years ago with Samantha and Betsy and everyone at Searchlight. That was my yogi home, and we have a lot of really beautiful studios in town. I'll speak to YogaPod specifically because that's where I work. But we have a Flow 1 class that's great. That's a non-heated class that you can come to. That's a vinyasa class. It's really all levels. Really, any class is accessible to you, and any yoga is accessible to you if you have the expectation that you are new and that you just take the shapes that work for you. That's the beauty of yoga.
Well,
it's your practice.
And that was relieving to me, because again, coming into yoga with that mentality of I want to do it well and I want to do it better, and it took a couple of sessions to realize no. And you guys say it all the time, but I guess it wasn't registering with me. You're like, your practice. You kept calling to wherever your practice will take you. And what you're saying is you do what you can.
Right. I say that literally in every class I teach to her. If any student of mine heard this, they'd be like, no, we get it. She says it. But it's really true. It is your practice. And so I always invite people in my class to take the depth of shapes of poses that feel good in their body, whatever that looks like, because that changes from day to day per individual. As you know, I say frequently, some days my practice, I feel like Tinkerbell or a fairy. Some days I feel like Shrek. It's just, it's depending on what you've eaten, your sleep, your hydration, like every day is different. So I really am a big proponent of breathing into wherever you are right today in this moment and whatever feels good. If that means you lay on your back in Shavasana or in child's pose the whole hour on your mat and that's just what you need today, that's yoga.
I love that.
So you do whatever feels good for you, and that's the invitation, and that usually ends up with you kind of giving yourself that permission. I find usually makes me work a little harder once I show up, because I've kind of taken the pressure off, like, oh, I can take it easy if I want. But once you're there, you're kind of like, I might as well do it.
Yeah.
And for someone like you who's really muscular, yoga can be more challenging, because when you have a lot of musculature and you're a muscular person, that flexibility is often one of the kind of,
You're so kind.
I'll take that $20 later.
There you go.
No, but that's one of the sacrifices is flexibility and mobility can also be challenged. So really muscular people, like, who are used to succeeding in fitness and working out and you're throwing up the heavy weight and all that, sometimes you come into yoga and you have kind of a different experience because you may not be so flexible or have that mobility. But I'm more so now than I was in my 20s, and that's what I try to tell people is it really is a practice, and the more you do it, there's no age limit, there's no expiration. You can do it forever as long as you continue to take the shapes and the depths that feel good in your body.
I love it. Well, tell you what, Kel, I really appreciate you coming in today.
Thank you. I so appreciate
this is a
being
lot
here.
of fun.
It was so fun.
We could co-host.
I think we've got it.
I think we could do this.
We could.
But I do want to leave you with two questions.
Okay.
Number one, has there ever been a point in your life, a failure or an obstacle where it was insurmountable, and you walked away from it with your head hanging, thinking I'm not going to be able to overcome this? But looking back now, it was actually a blessing in disguise, because it puts you in a different direction.
Is this where I cry, like on Oprah? Is this the part where I'm supposed to cry? Because I could really right now. No, that's an easy answer. My as you know, my biggest failure I would definitely consider is like my marriage ending. That felt very. That was a rough time. Yeah. You kind of entered during that time, so way to hang in there and still be friends with me, Bob. That was the most challenging part of my life ever, and it felt like such a tremendous failure for me. And I'm letting down my 4 children. I felt overwhelmed with failure. To minimize it, to not get too deep into that. But coming out of that, there's so many positives, really. Brian and I, my ex-husband, have a great relationship. We're great co-parents. We have really found a place where we get along very well. We've maintained our family unit. Most importantly, well, that's most important, but secondarily to that, just speaking to me as an individual, I was so deep in the Kelly as a mom, Kelly as a wife. That's all I was. Really mostly mom, if I'm being fair. Wife was kind of down lower, but Kelly as a mom was my number one identity, and I was so entrenched in that, I really had no identity other than that. I did not know I wasn't anything but Kelly the mom. So going through a separation and a divorce and having times where my children weren't with me, which had been an unheard of thing. They were with me every second of the day prior to that.
Right.
It really forced me to kind of sit with myself and figure out, like, okay, when I'm not being a mom for these next 4 days or 3 days, what am I going to do? Who am I? What do I even interested in? Like, it was such an unexpected, not really planned for. I mean, we worked very hard, for years to kind of counseling and work it out, and we really both tried. And I think if you asked either of us, we would wish that it had worked out. But the fact that I came away from it and was able to, over a period of years now, this has been several years, really figure out who I am as a person. And it sounds cheesy, but I don't think without that I didn't really have an individual identity. So finding yoga, this opportunity to teach and kind of develop my own persona and life and individuality separate from Kelly the mom was really a blessing, because I look back and think, if I hadn't gone through that separation and divorce, would I have just continued to kind of be this mommy drone and not become who I really am and connected with my own individual self? And I'm afraid I might not have. So,
well, and you mentioned you have 4 beautiful daughters, and so I think with that you've created a tremendous example.
Thank you so much. I really
of how to navigate
that.
the difficulties and come out stronger.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah. We're getting
I
a
know,
little
I'm literally whew.
One final question. If you could pick one exercise to do for the rest of your life,
this is a tough one.
What would that exercise be?
I would have to go with yoga, obviously the obvious choice, that being because I really do honestly feel like it is, and we've seen it. I mean, this woman who was I believe she was over 100. I don't know the exact number, but it was over 100, was still practicing yoga. She passed away in the last year or two. I've lost track of time now with the pandemic. It could be yesterday. It could have been 6 years ago, but recent past, and she was practicing and teaching up past 100 years old. And so it's something that I think has such longevity and the possibility, unlike almost any other exercise. You can't run forever. Most people's bodies can't. Most people can't lift heavy weights forever. Yoga is something you can literally do forever if you continue to practice and find different shapes and different depths, but it is something that has that longevity, and the mental aspect of it that is such a bonus is so desirable. I just think it's something that everyone could benefit from.
Love it. We'll wrap it up there. Well, thank you again for coming in.
Thank you.
Hey, so if you enjoyed that, then please share it. If you have any questions for myself or for Kelly regarding yoga, just comment below, and we'll happily respond back. So I hope you guys can go out there, find your passion, whatever it is that moves you and excites you to get your body moving, and enjoy some of not only the aesthetic changes, but some of the emotional changes that could take place as well. Have a great week.
Awesome. Thank you.